Clive, we're delighted to have you with us and look forward to hearing your input.
This is a room full of entrepreneurs. APG as a franchise network is a room full of people like me, people who look at opportunities and capitalize on those opportunities. And when I look at that number, 4 billion new passengers, I see a world of opportunities. I see opportunities in terms of more aircraft, more jobs. At the moment, the industry employ something in the region of 64 million people worldwide in this industry. Aviation contributes circa 3.5% towards the global GDP. That's almost $3 trillion of revenue. It's huge. And I see tons of opportunity there. But with all that opportunity, I also see risk. Consumers are moving faster than corporations can ever imagine. And I think the risk here is if we get this wrong, if we underestimate what they are thinking and doing, and we don't take them seriously or we don't react quickly enough, then we're in trouble. But I wanted to put something up here on the slide which starts with the science, the very heart of the issue, and see how many people recognize this. This equation is what happens when you fly a plane and you burn Jet A. So that first molecule, pair of molecules, it's octane. It is what we call Jet A. And that's made up of a molecular string of 8 carbon atoms and 18 hydrogen atoms. And that is the fuel. So when you burn that fuel and it combines with oxygen, the output is CO2, carbon dioxide. And I know you've all glazed over about the molecular formula here, but let me put this into what I would probably call good old-fashioned English. You take a gallon of Jet A that weighs about 6.5 pounds. When you burn it, it combines with about 23 pounds of oxygen, and the output is 20 pounds of CO2. But if you think of it on a global stage now, this industry produces 860 million tons of CO2 every year. So when we talk about doubling passenger numbers, perhaps we're even talking about trebling the amount of CO2 that's going out into the atmosphere. And we have to address that issue today. And I applaud KLM for the work that they're doing. I think it's excellent. It's groundbreaking. These are the facts of the matter. These are the things that we need to address. So yes, we account for circa 2% of global emissions. And absolutely, we're going to account for a whole lot more growth. So when I look at behavior, I think about behavior in the context of our behavior as an industry. I look at behavior of the consumers, and I look at behavior of governments. And the one problem that I have here is if governments get involved and start taxing our industry, it's going to go into the wrong pockets. We need it back in our industry. As Eric said, we need it to be invested in the future, in new propulsion systems, in better technologies, in biofuel production. And we need to think about public opinion that's changing incredibly quickly because this issue is only going to get worse. And it's going to be driven by a generation who don't trust us. They want to see real results. And as a CEO of one of the fastest growing private aviation brands in the world, this is my problem. We cannot afford to sit and wait for the industry to get hold of this. We have to get ahead of the game. 3 years ago, we introduced carbon offsetting, where last year, 25% of all our flights flew carbon neutral. It was not nearly enough, but it was a first step. So when we look at getting ahead of the issue, we have to do it in a way that is incredibly transparent, that is believable, that is not about satisfying us, but it's about satisfying the industry and the consumers and consumer behavior as a whole. We have to define ourselves. We have to define the challenges, and we have to be ambitious about this. From a Victor perspective, was to think about how do we define a sustainable future for private aviation that doesn't satisfy me or my shareholders, and some of them are the biggest companies in the world, but satisfies the consumer who's going to use your service, who may tomorrow decide, no, I'm not. So as of the 1st of July, I ran a national advertising campaign in conjunction with the Financial Times. It was an open letter to all the readers. We included an 8-page special report about the whole sustainability issue in conjunction with partners like Neste, Peter Vanacker, the CEO of Neste, came on board, we partnered up, and we put out an advert that the industry today, my industry, are struggling to come to terms with. I haven't put the whole advert up, just a part of it, but I want you to have a look at this for a moment. How many jet bosses want to admit that their planes pollute 20 times more than a civil aviation airliner per passenger mile? So can we get the people who can afford it the most, our customers, to lead the way? Can we look at smart technologies to reduce fuel burn in flight by optimizing the airways? And then finally, because there is no one silver bullet, if you choose to fly, and in our world, it is a real privilege, it also comes with a responsibility. And that responsibility is the cleaning up after yourself. So this was the basis of Victor's value proposition. We mandated 200% carbon offset on every flight, and then we've invited all our consumers to put their hand in their pocket and top up. And that was it. There's no ifs or buts. So our marketing dollar that would have gone on advertising has now gone on to carbon offsets. Rocket Route given us the technology to be able to analyze fuel burn and create fuel savings. We get real-time data to now be able to list every flight in the world, look at the CO2 calculations, and then map that back into a carbon offset program that has to be and is today the best that we can buy our money from. Tomorrow, we could perhaps make that available in terms of collaboration and ideas and thought leadership for the entire civil aviation space. Not just one airline, but all of the airlines around the world, and there are thousands of them, and the vast majority do not address the issue of carbon offsetting, carbon footprints, or how they can bring sustainable aviation fuel in. And I would welcome the opportunity to talk about how this could be built, perhaps in partnership with the APG for the airline industry. In July, when we launched this campaign, we flew over 400 flights, offset over 4,000 tons of carbon, and that was the equivalent of about 1.8 times the size of Central Park. That was our money, and we put it into carbon offsetting. The best UN-approved gold standard Reddit programs in the space today. Yes, they're going to have to get better, no question, because this year I'll probably do $250,000 into carbon offsetting, and we need to make sure that it works. And in terms of ambition, whatever we do, we have to be willing to be transparent and honest. In our first 90 days, we've hit 8% of our passengers putting their hand in their pocket, and I applaud them because they are the people that are going to shape opinion and lead this forward.
Thank you, Clive.